And it's Good News at Noon with Dick Baumbach. Hey, Dick, how's it going today?
Fine. It's another great week.
Another great week for good news. You know, we're going to kick right into this. The first one, and you talked about this in one of the other shows as coming up, is about a couple who defers buying their dream boat to cover college tuition for an entire class.
Yeah, this is Marty Burbank and his wife, and they had initially decided that they were going to invest up to $1 million in a dream boat that they've always wanted. But then they went to a church service, and Marty said something hit him, and so they decided to go to Rio Vista Elementary School in Anaheim, California, and they went and talked to the school, and 26 kindergarten kids are now all getting full scholarships when they get to college.
Holy smokes. The only time I've ever had anybody come to a class that I was in, they gave out free reading books.
Well, maybe they were starting on the roll. And they're putting the money aside, so it's going to keep going. And they figure, based on the kids are kindergartens now, that it's going to cost between $1 and $2 million.
Wow, that's amazing.
But you just think about it. Every one of those kindergartners, there's no negativity now. I won't be able to go to college.
Yeah,
it's done.
It's all positive, all positive thought all the way until they enter college.
And they finish, and people say, how did they do it? And, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Burbank.
Unbelievable.
Not Burbank, I'm sorry. Mr. and Mrs. Burbank.
What would be interesting is to find out how they're going to track these students, but that's for another show.
Well, that's maybe in 18 years from now.
Yeah, that's another show. When I was saying about the books, I was serious. There was back when I was in kindergarten, I think it was called Scholastic Readers or something. Yeah. And, we thought that was fantastic when they came in and they said, here you go. And it's like, whoa, we got us a book.
Exactly.
And it's like, book, give me an iPad.
Exactly. Or two of them.
Yeah, exactly. The next good story is about an 82-year-old woman finally finds long-lost 96-year-old birth mother. That's got to be special.
Well, and it's really social media. I mean, that's how it happened. And it's give you an example. This lady is 82 years old, the daughter. Betty Morell has been searching for her birth mother forever. And she went to her granddaughter, who is 32, Kimberly Miko, and said, is there anything you can do? Well, Kimberly went on the internet and started working it, trying to find out. And what did she find out but that her mom's mother is in a nursing home in Halstead, Pennsylvania, and the mom and the daughter have been reconnected, 96 years old.
That is just amazing. Now, I guess she was given up for adoption when she was a child?
Exactly.
Ah,
exactly.
Gotcha.
But in this case, Betty always wanted to know who her real mom was. And they spent the day together, and she said, it changed. They spent the day together, and it changed her life.
That is really amazing, and what you can do with the internet now through Google and Ancestry. Yeah. I have to share a story with you that happened to us just recently. My wife and I. She's very into Ancestry.com, and she and her sister, she thought that they were the only ones really left in the family of her family. And she's found that, she's a daughter of the Revolutionary War and that she has royalty in her family all the way back into the 1100s. But she thought this was it. There was just two girls. It's over. Well, she got an email from her second cousin and we just met up with them, and it was an amazing moment because then she realized that, hey, I've got family.
Right. But like you said, the internet and as they created that years ago, I wonder if they really thought that they could bring good news.
I don't know how they could have envisioned where we would be right now. I just don't know how that could be because we change every day
Right.
what's happening with the internet and the connectivity that we have in the world. It's just amazing. And your story was a perfect example.
Well, did you hear about what just happened yesterday with holograms now?
No.
They had two executives of the company of Accenture, I think it's called. They were on holograms, and as if they were in two places at the same time.
Holy smokes. And that used to be only stuff of movies.
Right. That's exactly
Yeah.
what people said, and
Yeah.
it's now real.
The
And
Matrix.
and it's a front-page story on the Washington Post.
Wow. Let's talk about the next one. It's the FCC may free Americans from need to rent set-top boxes for pay TV. What?
Yes, and I'm sure the pay TV people are not too thrilled, but Walmart probably is very happy. What the FCC has said is that the fact that we have to pay for our boxes, and it's almost like the cable companies, which I like, but that they are controlling it. And
They are.
and they said no, and they've now gone through a process, and they have passed that it'll be another year that you'll be able to walk out to a store, get your own box.
That's the way it used to be. You used to be able to go get a box or a TV that had all of it built in,
Right.
and it would work.
Right.
And then they started, you have to have this card, and you have to take this, and you have to do that, and it's like, it just gets really frustrating.
But now you realize that for us and all those folks out there, this is good news.
Oh, absolutely. It's good
Maybe
news.
for some companies it's not
Yeah.
good news, but for the average folk, it's
It's good news. I have to share with you about boxes, about, having to have certain boxes. I won't name the cable company,
Right.
but since I've had their internet service, and which has been about 5-6 years, I've gone through 4 boxes, modem boxes. And what happens is you're going along, and it's going along just fine, and all of a sudden things start slowing down and slowing down and slowing down to the point where you could dial on a phone and get a better connection. Then you call them up and they say, oh, you have one of those boxes. You have to buy a new box. I hope the FCC approaches this too, because it's ridiculous. I can't go down and buy a modem box from, Best Buy and plug it in. No, I have to get their box, and they have to have their man come out, and all he does is screw the coax on the back and plug the plug in for the network, and that's it. And you're paying for it.
Well, what I think, Jeff, we need to do is have the FCC chairman, Tom Wheeler, whose proposal has passed, to hear about that one. And I'm sure that Tom, maybe we could have Tom on.
Maybe he could be a guest
As a guest
on my
Good
show.
News, right.
Or on your show,
Right.
sure.
He could be a guest on your show.
There you go. That would be, boy, wouldn't that be something? No, I don't even want to go there. The next story we have is national and state winners for 2016 longest married couple project announced by Worldwide Marriage Encounter. Now, before we go into that story, what is Marriage Encounter all about?
Worldwide Marriage Encounter is for good marriages to make them great marriages. It's been around since the 1950s, started by a priest named Father Gabriel Calvo, came to the States in 1968 at Notre Dame, and has just gone worldwide. And what happened, there was a crazy guy that you might know named Dick Baumbach, who came up with the idea 6 years ago.
Is that the same guy that's doing the show?
I wonder. And the wife said, it's not going anywhere. Who came up with the idea of, why don't we, since nobody else was doing it, honor the longest married couple in the United States? And then somebody said, why don't we do each state in addition to all, not
Right.
just the United States? So that's what we did, started 6 years ago. And the winners this year are Maury and Helen Gusenberg, and they're from Carlsbad, and they are married 80 years. I know, 80 years.
But that's not the longest one, is it?
No. Well, the first year was Marshall and Winnie Kirkendall from Lordsburg, New Mexico, and middle of nowhere, married 83 years. They eloped to get married, and when she was in high school, and they didn't tell the parents because they were worried the parents would get really upset until after she graduated. But then he became a gold miner and found gold mines all across Nevada, and then they built their house. And we had the honor and privilege of meeting them. And here's just a good thing that happened. I said to Marshall, again, the man was 104, had just renewed his license the week before. I said, Marshall, why do you have an airfield across the street from your house? And he said, people come. And I said, Marshall, we're in Lordsburg, middle of nowhere. People come. I said, well, who came? Charlie. Charlie came. Yeah, Charlie. Charles Lindbergh came in 1932 on his Around the United States Victory Tour. Well, of course, Charlie. Jeff and Charlie. And, and all of them have stories like...
now, was that the one that was on the morning show on CBS?
No, that was Dale and Alice Rocky.
What a great couple that was.
And you know what she said? He just puts up with the way she feeds him. It's only been going on for 82 years.
Only 82 years.
And she also said that the reason their marriage has stayed together, he always does what I say to do. That was
Smart man.
And he looked and said, and I say, yes, dear.
Yep, smart man.
So, it's been a great honor to see these couples, but to also have them across the country in the different states, the people are thrilled that their mom and dad or their aunt and uncle or their friends are being honored. And in fact, this year, John and Amber Tarr, who were the third-year winners, they went and did a Twitter on Valentine's Day. They're now married 83 years.
Holy smokes.
Answering questions on how to keep going.
Holy smokes.
And
now, if you know of a couple that's been married for a really long time, how do they get involved in this?
Well, what they do is the project runs from October 10th to January 10th of every year. And we call it a project. It's not a contest because there could be somebody married much longer.
Right.
But unless they're nominated, they're not considered. And so we do it from October 10th to January 10th. And then we find out who the winners are. And in the case of the Batars from Fairfield, Connecticut, they were nominated 42 minutes before midnight of January 10th.
No, really?
Yeah.
Do you know who nominated them by any chance?
That's how we make the contact through. Because everything is done. We do not do anything directly with the winners. We work through the nominee so that there's a safety net and there's a calmness.
Now you have discussed this before with me. This is really growing. This is not something that is just, it was a good idea for Marriage Encounter to do. This has now become a really big deal, right?
Well, what we've noticed, and my wife Diane and I have noticed, is that what we're seeing now is the nightly news shows are now recognizing people that are 100 years old, 100. Now, I'm not saying that it was because of this, but I think it's, again, a good news thing. Hey, if somebody lives 105.
Yep. Now, it is a big news thing, though, if in the beginning only one place shows up and now you have multiple places showing up or news outlets and you got to say, so-and-so's got it.
Exactly. Well, and CBS, they had been watching the project for 3 years when they made the phone call.
Yeah, if the listeners have an opportunity to go out and find